Right then, I am glad to say joining me on the show today is, of course, your man that is the Project Cars World Champion 2019, 2017, 2016. It is, of course, Kamil Pawlowski, aka Khaki, on the show. How are you?
Hey guys, how are you? I'm fine, thank you.
Listen, man, it's so good to have you on the show today. Is that okay? I called you the World Champion 2019, 2017, 2016. What happened in 2018, Kamil?
There was basically no Project Cars major competition on this year, so maybe if there was, maybe I would take it, but
Listen, man,
but yeah,
people,
there was no competition in
no
Project Cars. Yeah.
competition. Well, listen, the thing is with getting you on the show, I do want to talk about Project Cars and essentially for you, have you been enjoying this period of lockdown where you can even be perfecting your craft even more right now?
Uh, it was this year, the 2018 was not a lockdown, but because I could focus a bit more on the different games, different types of simulations. So yeah, obviously I could train a bit more to prepare for the upcoming next season. So yeah.
Mm. Yeah, because people want to know what's the Project Cars scene. What does it look like? We know that Project 3 is coming out soon, but for you, what does the scene look like when you're competing?
Okay, so in Project Cars, it's mainly like that the producer studios, Slightly Mad Studios, is organizing a major esports competitions,
Mm.
basically once a year. So I can talk a bit more about the most recent one
Yeah.
in last year. It happened last year in the finals was in London in very cool venue called Mercedes-Benz World. So yeah,
Wow.
talking about the whole competition, uh,
Yeah.
the structure was very interesting because it was a multi-class competition and it involved a pro class, which was a hand-picked invited teams invited by Project Cars, and the challenge competition, which was individual one. So
Mm.
basically anyone could qualify for this by the time trial qualifiers and later in the shootout race, which did determine the top 10 drivers for the entire season. So the season contained like 5 races online,
Mm.
uh, which from 18, 4 teams get qualified for the live finals, and from 10 drivers from Challenger Series qualified for the finals live in UK. And the whole
Yeah.
structure was very interesting because of the multi-class. The pro guys use the GT3 cars, and the
Mm.
challenger guys use the touring cars. And it was very cool because at some point of the race, the GT3 cars were lapping the TC cars, and at this point, in basically every race of the season, were some turning points and plot twists because lapping in the short race is very interesting because there can have some crashes or some of the positions and
Mm.
etc etc. So yeah,
Yeah.
the esports scene in Project Cars is mainly about the major competitions organized by Slightly Made Studios, but in general in Project Cars there are much more competitions like the leagues organized by AOR, which involves so many very fast players and it's very popular. But also there were some competitions like the Logitech G Challenge, which also was a McLaren Shadow project. And yeah, so right
Okay.
now it's pretty silent in Project Cars, but I hope we'll see some new competitions, big ones in very uh, soon future.
Yes, indeed. Look, I mean, this is it, and we know how competitive you are, Camille. But in terms of Project Cars, what made you love it so much to keep competing? What is it that stands out for Project Cars versus Assetto Corsa or iRacing for you?
That's a tricky question because the Project Cars 1 was basically the first sim racing game I tried.
Mm.
So back then I didn't have the proper comparison to other sim racing games, but trying this game and focusing on it, I was just fast in it. I was just starting my sim racing career, and I felt that I have the talent to make next steps in sim racing and enter the esports world. And
Mm,
the Project Cars was one of the first games that includes worldwide esports competitions. So
got you.
there were some ESL competitions, the Little Sunday Cups, which involved some prize money. I started to competing in them, and it was growing and growing, and the bigger competitions started to happen in Project Cars. And as I was the Project Cars driver, I was sticking with this
Yeah.
because switching from game to game isn't the best idea in sim racing, because you have to mainly focus on that one you want
Mm,
to focus on. So the Project Cars was my choice. I was very happy with this. The physics were back then having no comparison, but it was very okay for me. The driving feeling was on point. So, and Project Cars 2 was even better. So
yeah.
yeah, that's the reason I stick with Project Cars. And but yeah, talking about now,
Loyalty. Yeah,
yeah
I guess it was the loyalty,
yeah
but when Project Cars 3 comes out, I imagine you'll pick that up and start practicing and putting the time in
I
because
will.
you're very competitive and you want to compete. Two questions then. What do you hope will happen in Project Cars 3? And also, in terms of the prize money, is it enough to sustain the lifestyle that you have?
um well, what I hope for Project Cars 3, the there were some great things that Project Cars 2 did very very well.
Hmm.
Like, I think the Project Cars 2 has almost or even the best weather system in sim racing games.
Mm.
Like, I think is the fun fact is that this the Project Cars 2 is, I think, is the only sim that features the snow weather. I don't think you can
Okay.
find any snowy weather in any sim racing game uh, than Project Cars 2. So I hope they will stick with great weather transitions for Project Cars 3. But what
Yeah.
I want to them to focus on more, well, Project Cars 2 had very big and very nice car variety, uh, which
Mm.
is obviously a great thing, but um, at the cost of the physics, I think, because some cars were
Yeah.
just on point. You felt like you're driving a real car, and the force feedback was great, and the overall physics in some cars were great, but some cars felt a bit less realistic and a bit more twitchy. So, this game has great variation in tracks, great variation in cars, but at the cost sometimes on the physics. And
Yeah.
you can't have your cake and eat it. So I would like to for Project Cars 3, I would prefer to focus less on variety, so focus on like one or two or three race classes
Mm.
and push the maximum out of the physics. So yeah, let's take a look at the Automobilista 2, which uses the same physics and game engine as Project Cars 2. And I didn't personally try it, but from the people
Yeah.
opinion, the others that they say that it feels just better than Project Cars 2. And so yeah, the potential in this engine of Project Cars 2 is there, and they can use it in Project Cars 3 and just polish it, master it, and this will be the freaking best game. Like,
I love it. I love it. Kamil.
yeah, with great car
The- the-
variety, physics, and weather, it would be awesome. And good
okay.
online
Well,
system.
listen.
They will, yeah.
Well, well, listen up. Project Cars 3. You've heard from Camille that he's the champ. Let's have that in the game. The question that people always ask is it an arcade? Is it a simcade? Is it a simulate? Is it as we'd expect, a simulated racing platform? How do you see it? Is it arcade? Is it a simcade or is it a pure simulator?
I would call it a hybrid. So it's something like simcade and sim racing. It's like a
Okay.
new genre. It's like Yeah, you can call it. How do you call it? Something between simcade and simulator.
Okay, I'll work that out, but it's
That's a
somewhere in
tricky
between
one.
all of those. All right, okay. And would you like
Maybe
to see
sometimes, yeah.
would you like to see more focus on VR in the new Project Cars 3?
It would be great, but Project Cars 2 already had almost the best VR support out there. So
Ah, okay.
if they can just repeat that in Project Cars 3, it would be awesome. It was, yeah. I had a VR glasses at some point for some time for actually preparing for World Fastest Gamer. I decided to buy VR glasses just to have the better immersion to prepare for
Yeah.
the real drive, and it helped me because. You can't even compare the monitor to VR glasses. The VR gives you so much more depth and feeling being inside
Mm.
the car. It's great, and I think it helped me quite a bit preparing to World Fastest Gamer. Yeah, back to the topic. VR
No,
support is VR
it's
support is
good.
very good in Project Cars 2, and if they can repeat or even improve it in Project Cars 3, it would be awesome. So
Okay. Okay. Well, I'm jotting all of this down afterwards, Kamil, and then I'm going to send it across to them. There is one thing that I keep seeing, which is in a nutshell, and this is kind of a yes or no answer. Is it less forgiving on Project Cars 2 in terms of braking than on Forza and Gran Turismo? Is that something you've noticed?
Um, yes, I think it is. I mean, I have driven all of these three games you have mentioned: the GT
Hmm.
Sports, the Forza, and Project Cars 3, and yeah, Project Cars 2. I mean, and yeah, in Project Cars 2, when you don't use the ABS, but you mainly do in the competitions, like when you use the GT3, but you and when you don't use the ABS, you have to be very precise with your braking, very on point. You don't have you don't you can't lock your brakes too much because it will cost you a lot of. So yeah, it is demanding in the point of braking compared to Gran Turismo. I think you can push the brake pedal just to the max, and you don't have to control it that much like in Project Cars, in my
Mm.
opinion.
Okay, well, this is good information. We will talk about the world's fastest gamer, but before that, Kamil, it is time for your quick fire questions. Are you ready for your quick fire questions, Kamil?
Yeah, sure I am.
Okay, then let's go. It's International Dance Day today. What is your favorite dance?
Breakdance. I don't know. I'm not into dancing so much, but just come to
uh,
my mind the breakdance.
I like it. Good answer. What do you think of flossing? Yay or nay?
What is flossing?
You know, like that thing with the in and out thing, flossing.
I think it's from Fortnite or not.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't like it. Nah, I mean it's. I feel like being too old for this.
Okay,
That's
that's a good answer.
yeah.
Favorite Polish food?
Uh, Obviously pierogi.
Ah, pierogi. I
Obviously.
love pierogi. Obviously, sweet or savory?
Uh, I prefer savory with meat.
Good answer.
Yeah.
Okay. Best sim rig wheel to race with. Now, I've noticed at the side of the screen, you've got a whole host of different wheel rigs. So, which is your favorite to race with?
um, I can show you.
Yeah.
I have of them.
Wow.
So
That
I
is
love to
a selection.
select. My favorite one is I think the TM open wheel is which I use the most because it's lightweight and very agile and great for GT3 and prototype cars. So yeah, this is the one I use the most.
Okay. Best tournament you've raced in?
Hmm. Well, esports competition or racing wise, the world fastest gamer was the best one ever, but esports wise was the SRO esports in Assetto Corsa competition.
And finally, Camille, if you could be as good on Project Cars as any other sim title, which one would you choose?
Well, I think iRacing because I didn't really try it, but if I would be as good as in Project Cars, I would love it.
Perfect. Well, listen, congratulations. You have passed the quickfire round questions, and it was
Yes.
great to see a little bit of your setup. So, is this where you're spending most of your time with your sim racing at the moment? Because I want to know about the Polish sim racing scene, and seeing as you have got your setup there, first of all, is this your main area for sim racing?
Yes, it is. I spent, right now, this season, I spent really quite a lot of time on sim racing. It is like becoming my full-time job because of how fast and rapidly sim racing scene worldwide is growing, and
Mm,
especially virus states where the motorsport and real sport is basically dead for this moment. The sim
mm,
racing is taking the motorsport place, even
yeah,
in the TVs, and yeah, the real drivers are switching and taking the sim racing very, very seriously. So it's quite interesting. And if I want to be competitive right now in the esports scene, in the games I'm competing in, I really need to focus and mm, spend as much of time as I can on practicing. For all these sim racing years, the Polish scene was on, I would say, on the amateur level in terms of
mm,
competition. And I'm not saying that it's bad, because all these amateur leagues you can find in the Polish websites, Polish sim racing sites,
mm,
are very good and allow new players, new sim racers to compete on the very high level and have great races with other guys, and which is great. But what I'm trying to say is that the Polish sim racing scene to that moment has little to no impact on the worldwide esports scene. But this is the
yeah,
great moment to ask about it, because basically a few days ago, the very big two sim racing leagues were announced that they
yeah.
will be broadcasted in TV, in the Poland, on the Canal Plus sports channels. It's
Amazing.
organized by Republic of Sim Racers, and there will be separately two leagues, the DTM and GT3 leagues in Assetto Corsa. And I am really, really looking forward for it and cheering them up, because it may be a very big milestone for Polish sim racing scene if these leagues will be successful and will work well. uh, I think it will be a very big point in the sim racing, because it will bring the whole new level of attention in
Yeah,
esports in Poland. Yeah.
definitely.
So,
Well,
yep.
my fingers are crossed for this. That hopefully will mean more people are watching, and it will give them something to cheer on competitively.
Yeah,
I did
exactly.
mention we will talk about it. The world's fastest gamer. You were in the year with James Baldwin. What was that like as an experience? How has that made you grow as a racer?
Yeah, it was World Fastest Gamer was just simply amazing, and it's so freaking hard to describe how good it was. It was like taking your life to absurdly dream level. Like it was the wet dream of every sim racer. Like yeah, really. Uh, Doing so many crazy and insane things in such a short period of time was basically mental. Like
Yeah.
the first experience the real cars in World Fastest Gamer was was already crazy, because our first experience started at the really little racing track, but very cool one, near to Las Vegas. It was called Exotic Racings, and there was a place with all the best supercars in one place, like AMGs, McLarens, Ferraris, Porsches, Lamborghini, etc., etc. The best you can imagine. And guess what? We could
Yeah.
just pick one car we like and have a spin on the track, just
Amazing,
for
man.
the start, just for the warm up. And it was just an introduction for World Fastest Gamer, what is awaiting for us. And this was already mind blowing, and this was all just the start. And the whole competition was we used a little touring like car, which was a
Yeah.
rear wheel drive, about 250 horsepower, very agile, very little, very aggressive locked differential. So it was the perfect car to like that, to learn the driving characteristics, to learn how to properly drive a car, to make or not make mistakes. And yeah, this was the best car, because in the supercars like we had on start, you could do some mistakes, but the electronic system will just kick in and
Yeah.
save you up. But in this type of cars, when you do a mistake, you spin. And
Yeah.
yeah, Wolf vs Gamer was all about showcasing the most progress, the most improvement over the time. It was not about being the very fast from the very first days. It was not about it. If you wanted to win, step into the final of Wolf vs Gamer, you needed to showcase the most progression,
Mm.
from being, you, you could be very unexperienced from the beginning, but if you showcase the improvement, the true improvements, and adapting the pace to the conditions, and every day showing the improvement, you could win the world fastest gamer. And
What?
yeah, there were sorry, uh,
I
so
guess there
many
were so many
facts.
things. So many
Yeah, yeah,
things
yeah.
that you learned from that, and I assume you're going to take that on to the next competition you take on, whenever that may be. And I think that's great for people who are watching this to know that it's not about necessarily being the fastest; it's making those improvements and growing as a driver. And I wanted to ask you actually, Kamil. This is tough, so I don't expect you to get the right answer, and there isn't a right answer, but this is just your opinion. Nitro Nights, we tweeted something out to say to people, hey guys, you need to choose one of these racers and then one of these sim platforms, and then where you would play it on. So your options are, as you'll see on this screen, and I want to pose the question to you now. You've got Jimmy Broadbent, Max Beneke, Sim Racing Girl, Rudy Van Buren, or Bono Huis. So you have to choose one of them. Then the platform, the R Factor 2, Forza, GT, F1 2019, or iRacing. And then finally, PlayStation, Xbox, PC. So I will have your answer, please, Kamil.
That's a tough one, especially the first one. Thinking about all these guys, I would say Jimmy Broadbent or Rudy Van Buren.
Ooh.
I would go for Jimmy Broadbent, because he's such a cool streamer, such a cool guy, and I just love watching him. He's doing such a great job on streaming and having a great community. Yeah, over the internet. So Jimmy Broadbent is my choice.
Okay. And what about the second one? What title are we going to?
That's a tough one as well, because they're so different in terms of physics and overall experience. But I will go with Air Factor 2, because I know this game from this list the most, and it's a proper simulation with great physics and great driving experience. But basically, every game has from this has some to show that
Yeah,
it's
to
great
offer.
about, like, yeah, the Forza is about the variety and the whole community, the Gran Turismo about the online system, and it's a proper great racing game for PlayStation. F1 because of the F1, and
Oh, oh, oh,
it's
oh.
great as well. Yeah,
But what are you going for? PlayStation, Xbox, or the PC?
PC obviously, because it's just my platform.
Well, listen, Camille, great. Thank you so much for answering that question. Everyone else can go to Twitter and put your opinion down, your answer. And also, can you do me a favor, Camille? Once we finish this show, can you possibly tweet us your sim rig? I would love to see that. And because I've been asking all of the Nitro Night viewers to do exactly the same. Take a picture of your sim rig so that we can compare and contrast and get excited about maybe one day adding that little bit to our rig. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure, I will.
Perfect. Well, listen, Kamil, so great to have you on the show today. Thank you for giving us your insight into the world of being a racer in the world of world's fastest gamer and also in Project Cars. I hope you've enjoyed yourself.
Yeah, I did. It was very enjoyable. Thank you very much.
Well, listen, man, all the best. Best of luck with the next couple of the races. And to everyone watching right now, thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget, we'll be back on Friday for another episode of Nitro Nights. In the meantime, stay safe and we'll see you soon.